Intercepted. The Bengals have the ball. They are running it back. Sam Hubbard.
Stanford Jennings is going to go all the way. When it comes down, the Bengals are champions.
Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up. It is good.
Today, Bengal fans, here we gather, talking football back for year 5. We're covering all things Houday Nation. We're glad you joined us here tonight. Special guests, past and present players. You never know who you might see. One thing that's for sure, it's all things Bengals. And it all goes back to charity. We at Talking Football want to thank you for joining us for the show tonight. By the fans, for the fans, until the very end. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Bengal Jimless version of Bengal Jim and Friends. As you can tell, we have a couple of faces missing tonight. James is the keynote speaker at the Covington, Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. It's their Oktoberfest weekend, and as they kick things off, they wanted a Bengal fan to give their keynote address tonight. So James is at a rubber chicken dinner representing us and representing all Bengal fans across the river in Covington, and we know he'll do a good job and represent us well. Bengal Jim is on a self-imposed suspension, and we're not going to go into any further details as to what might that be. Here on Bengal Jim and Friends, Jamie is in charge of rules and reinstatements and the subsequent hearing that will happen. Jamie, do you think we'll have him back next week?
Definitely 1 week suspension for sure. We'll have to see how this all plays out. So,
what about fines? Do you have fines in play here?
Yeah, there should be a charitable fine, I think, Tony. I mean, that's your angle here, isn't it?
Exactly. We're always about earning money for charity, so let's give Bengal Jim a fine for that.
Oh, I'm going to be on with you guys. I think we're referred to as the special guest in the opening song. So this show's being run tonight by the special guests.
No, it's official. No, the inmates are in charge of the prison tonight. There's no question about that. So please, everybody, bear with us. But we're going to have a great show. We've got Joe Goodberry coming up in just a little bit. We're going to go over some charity stuff. But, guys, all 32 teams have visions. It's like the night before Christmas, the night before your opener. All 32 teams have visions of the Super Bowl. We all love our Bengals. We're not giving up on our Bengals. We're disappointed, maybe even a little angry at our Bengals, and you can still love them and feel that way. But that was not good Sunday at all.
How many of you guys heard from your non-Bengal fan friends about how we ruined their survivor pool this year? I'm in a survivor pool where it started with 95 people on Sunday, and it's down to 12. I'm just saying. Yeah, that was awful. I'm looking forward to getting into that with Joe when he comes on. But I mean, that was awful. That was awful. Unfortunately, I had to watch from home. I meant to come down to the home opener, and I couldn't find my passport the day before and the morning of when I was supposed to leave. Well, I think we lost Tom, but that's okay. Yeah, it was awful, man. Tony, I can imagine what it was like being there. It was just
Yeah, the build-up going into our opener was, exciting, and we had so many high expectations. I really think that's what took a lot of people and deflated them even more, was just the fact that we had these high expectations. We thought we were going to start off, strong and fast. Joe had his first full training camp. So I think we were all excited just to see that happen. And when it didn't, like I said, it deflated us pretty quickly. So, we didn't even have a first down, first whole quarter,
Yeah,
second quarter, I think. So it was very disheartening, that's for sure.
It was bad, and not making excuses here at all, but watching it from home and on TV, they really focused on Joe's wrist. Every time he was on the sideline, you can see him moving, stretching, trainers coming over looking at it. It just makes you wonder how close to 100% he actually is. Now, it's 1 week. We'll see how it goes. That Gazeki touchdown looked great, but on the replay, he obviously bobbled it. So, but there's 3 things in that game that happened: the Gazeki drop, the Hudson fumble on the goal line, and then the special teams fumble on the return. If one of those 3 things didn't happen, it would have been a whole different game. Would have been ugly, but it would have been a whole different game. But I put that on Facebook. I said, if one of those 3 things didn't happen, and a buddy chimed in and said, well, if my mom had wheels, she'd be a bike. So there you go. I replied
a
back.
Good way to talk about your mom.
I know. I replied back saying, I heard your mom was a bike, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's you don't talk like that about your mother. Come on. What's going on up there, Jamie? Come on. But
Zach said it really well in his interview. Was like, he talked about, once the half was over, they had already lost the ability to have the narrative. They couldn't do anything because the Patriots really drove what they wanted it to be like. So, when you're already down 13-0, it's hard to come back. And plus with the fumbles and everything else that you discussed, it's a game that's hard to win.
And it makes you wonder, like, I commented on a Cincy Jungle post yesterday. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so sick of the drama with Jamar Chase. I'm over it. I don't want to hear anything more about it. Obviously, we're to talk about it, but it has to play on this team. Like, it absolutely has to. You didn't even know he was going to play until before kickoff.
Well, a little of that did come into a case of food poisoning that I guess he came down with Friday night and felt like crap a good portion of the day Saturday. And they got a couple IV bags in him, and he was on the comeback. I believe his targets, he was 100%, 6 catches, 6 targets. So, the other thing is, though, losing a game on your schedule, that should be an easy one. And knowing we're going into Kansas City, I think at this point, more so even though it's a win, is we just need to see how they play Sunday if we feel they're on the uptick, because it's very possible they could play their best game they possibly can with the wounded defensive line, etc. They could play the best game they possibly can and still lose Saturday.
I mean, we very well could just be one of those teams that just plays to the caliber of our opponent. I mean, we come out, we ball against KC, and it's a whole different team, and you're playing against a team that is going to play ball, and then you go into Patriots. Patriots are not a good team. They're not a good team.
No.
And we played to their level.
And Tom, and to your point, I think, going into KC, as long as we are, or we look like we're competitive, I think that'll put a little bit, energize the fans a little bit more than what we saw, week 1. So, win or lose, as long as we're there to play and we actually show that we're going to play and be competitive, I think that'll help encourage us a little bit.
Yeah, Jerome, I don't think it's Joe's wrist. I watched him warm up, and I watched him throw some balls during the game. The spirals were tight. It seemed to have plenty of zip. I would have liked to have seen him on cork one deep. Zach said after the game that there were calls for that, and he didn't say they weren't there. He said, for whatever reason, we ended up throwing underneath. Joe is the best player on this team. I think, when all's said and done, if he spends his whole career here, not just of the Bengals, he's going to be in the Mount Rushmore of Cincinnati sports, period. And there are a lot of great names there, not just for the player he is, but the person he is. He is human. We're going to talk more about this with Joe. I think he had a bad game, despite completing over 70% of his passes. He wasn't playing with confidence, while the line, especially the right side of the line, didn't perform all that well. He had time. Normally we always hear Joe holds on to the ball too long and gets hit. I think maybe he was just, first thing underneath, boom. First thing underneath, boom. So yeah, he
I
did
like,
not.
I like the scrambles. I like the couple scrambles he did. He looked good in those. What do you guys think about this? Eric's mentioning the punt with 2:16 left. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm excited. We're going, this is it. Joe, we're marched on the field. We're going to win this game. It's going to be 17-16, and we're going to move on to the Chiefs. And it was just like 3 and out. And I'm sitting here going, we're going for this. I mean, we're not kicking the ball. And then they kick the ball. Now, 2-minute warning, still 3 timeouts left. I mean, I'm sure the book says to kick in that position. But do you guys agree? Like, I just think that was a spot where you just go for it. If you don't get it, you're losing the game.
The book doesn't have eyes and didn't watch how New England was running the ball on us.
Yeah,
I knew when we punted, we weren't, no matter how good a punt, whatever, we weren't getting the ball back. I would have more faith in Joe Burrow, your best player, one of the elite players in the league, able to complete a 5 or 6 yard pass there and let the drive keep bleeding than to punt it and know you're not getting the ball back. But
I think I punt there if you're down a field goal, but I think you go for it when you're down 6.
I agree. Everybody in our area are saying the same thing. Is like, what is Zach thinking? And I think that brought up all the big hoopla that Zach shouldn't be making the calls. I've seen a lot of that on social media that maybe he needs to hand that off. But yeah, I disagree with that call. But like you said, maybe the book said that mathematically, maybe it worked out in his head that he thought that he would have some time there to push a drive down. But yeah, as we all know, unfortunately, it didn't work out for us.
Well, I mean, they always say like let your defense do their job, but if you watch the defense, you're going for that. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm going for that all day, every day, down 6. But
yeah, talking about
that's the Bengals.
Defense had 80 plus yards after a missed tackle. That New England was able to get on us, and that's crazy. We would have a tackle if we would have been able to stop them initially. That would have been 80 more yards that we could have stopped them from getting, and maybe turn the game around. Because when the game started, I even made the comment, "Hey, this is going to have to be a defense game," and unfortunately, it didn't work out for us there either.
Yeah, and Stevenson's a beast. That guy can run. That guy can.
Well, I'm going to mention this to Joe Goodberry, but Stevenson had 120 yards. Here's the stat nobody can explain to me. You know how many of those 120 yards he got after contact, after first being hit? 118.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
100.
That's an epic
18 yards after being hit.
After contact. Yeah, that's insane. That's absolutely.
Yeah, it almost looked like maybe, there wasn't a preseason because the defense wasn't tackling. The offense was out of sync. We've got maybe certain guys to be worried about. The defensive line is blown up. We have guys we're going to count on this year who did not perform Sunday. I would imagine that the mood in the locker room is upbeat, ready to get to work, but still angry, which is, pretty much mirrors the fan base. So we'll get after it. Hopefully see some big improvement with KC and going into October, climb back into the playoff fight. But
so let me ask you guys this question, because I really don't want to hammer Goodberry with a bunch of Jamar Chase questions. I'm sure he's sick of talking about it as much as anybody else. But you guys are super fans of the team, right? I mean, Tony, you put hours in every weekend to get ready, go out there, raise money for charity, do your thing. What effect does this have on you as a fan when you have a player that you love, that you want on the team, and then you're seeing all these reports? Again, we don't know the true story. We only know what we read, and you don't know what's accurate and what's not. But does it change your fandom for Jamar Chase the longer this plays out?
So for me, I want to say no, but sometimes I really do think, and myself included, a lot of fans forget that this is a business. Even though we are fans and we're paying for the money to go to games and away games and traveling to see the team, it's entertainment for us. But for them, it's a job. And if you think about it that way, he's just trying to get what he thinks he's due. I kind of understand it that way, but I don't think a lot of people see it that way either. So maybe I'm sitting out there alone on that topic, but it's a business. I'm still going to support the team no matter what. Like you said, we're all fans, and we've been through the 90s, and and it's just like this is a great time for us right now. We're all excited for the team and the last few years that they've been able to give us, championships in the division and that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. But for me, it doesn't really affect me. I think there is a lot of drama, though. To your point earlier, I think it does affect the team, even though they say that it's business and they go on, they don't look at it. But I think that's in the locker room, and there is some drama around just, is he going to be next to you, running and being that wide receiver that we know he can be. So that's my
I think it became a distraction last week, midweek, when he practiced a couple days, and then he wasn't there, and then he was there, and then Saturday he wasn't there. And granted, that was for an illness. He was generally ill, but his agent, evidently they got close and they agreed on a lot. They just couldn't agree on a couple of big points that neither side was. But his agent, when he walks into a room, hang on, this is the music they play. David Mulliganer, he is the evil Darth, whatever, Sith of sports agents.
Pause that before we get a trademark infringement on the live stream.
But before somebody sues us. But that's what they play when he walks into a room. He and the Bengals have never been able to work anything out on some very big, important names, and it's going to be a struggle every time. But the sports marketplace changed when Cleveland did that absolute genius thing and guaranteed Deshaun Watson's contract, which has worked out really well for him. And they deserve it.
They set the precedence for sure.
Yeah, they absolutely deserve it. And that's another topic, but I guess he's having some more off the field problems.
Yeah,
but
that today.
It was more of a distraction. And these guys have been very good the last 4 seasons of not letting things distract them. They're a very focused team. It's a great group of guys. They're easy to root for. I don't think that changes. I think Jamar wants to be here. I think he wants to play with Joe Burrow. He wants to be a Bengal. He wants to win a Super Bowl here. This is his elite time to be paid. He wants the contract short enough so he can be in his late 20s and get another super contract. And the Bengals were going to make him the number 1 receiver in football, but it was, I think, the number of years and the structure of it and probably the amount guaranteed, which is a shame, but I think they'll be able to regain their focus.
See, I fight with it. So I totally get what Tony's saying. And and I'm a business owner. It's a business. You have to look at it as a business. This is entertainment for us. We dedicate a lot of time to talk about this team, to support the team, raise money with the fan base for this, with this team. But it's hard because you want the players to have the same vested interest that you have. You want the players to want to win with this team, win a Super Bowl for this fan base. And then you have to realize it's a business and you have to get paid. What frustrates me is I just don't understand why we even have contracts if we can just renegotiate them 2 years out from the contract. That's a whole other conversation. But I kind of just feel like the NFL should maybe just go year by year contracts, because what's the point of signing long-term deals? Because no one seems to play out these deals. And it's funny, you got like a guy like Brock Purdy who's playing through his rookie contract. It's been to the Super Bowl, has got them in the playoffs, done everything he's been asked to do. Yes, people say system quarterback, whatever. Looked good last night. You don't see him doing this, right? I mean, this guy lives with another linebacker in like a condo. He'll hosted a team party in the shared playground in the middle of the condo, and you don't see him doing this. So it's interesting. As a fan, it kind of pisses me off, but at the same time, I have a really easy way to fall back in love with Jamar Chase. Catch touchdowns, win a Super Bowl. And I don't care. I'm gonna be the quickest guy back on the Jamar Chase bandwagon when he catches the game-winning touchdown in an important game or makes a big play or gives us the Super Bowl.
Well, my take on that, and this will probably stir some stuff up in chat. Not a lot of people will agree with me, but there are three parts to a sport. There are the players who look at it from a business sense as well for their performance, and they can gauge success in two ways. Are we winning and losing? Are we winning championships? Do we have a chance to win a championship? And how much money am I making? Can I walk away from this very physical sport able to take care of my family for the rest of my life? And God love them if they're able to do that and invest their money and do that. There are the owners of the franchises who have much to say. Are we showing a profit? And they have to.
Sure.
They absolutely have to. And this is not the easiest market to do that in, but they absolutely have to show a profit. They need to make money.
Reds.
Yeah.
Here's one perspective I've been thinking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from a college perspective, now that players are getting some money and deals there as a college, aren't we kind of teaching them as they move into the professional realm of sports that this is what they deserve and this is what they should be getting?
Well, they might be, but like I said, to finish that, the teams want to make money, and they want to win, and they do want to win. And trust me, Bengals management wants to win as much as everybody else. They want that Super Bowl, especially right now with this quarterback and this team. So they've got two ways. We, the forgotten, the not talked about too much, and if we do, we've got members of the national media belly aching about us. We're the fans, and guess what? Financially, we're never going to come out ahead. We're going to pay for our tickets. We're going to pay for the food at the stadium. We're going to pay for parking. We're going to pay for all that. We're going to pay for our swag. We're going to pay for all that. So financially, we are never going to come out ahead. We have one thing that we can claim for success.
Yeah,
that's to win.
Yeah.
That's to win.
Yeah.
That makes us feel good. That keeps us fired up. That makes all the rest of that okay. So, it hurts that much more when we lose and see that effort Sunday.
It is interesting to me, though, because some players, like you just said, there's things that they think about. Can I be successful with this team? Can I make enough money to generational money for my family, take care of my family and my kids' kids? There are players who look at the winning more than the money, and there's players who obviously look at the money more than the winning. It's interesting, though, when as a fan, you kind of have a read for what you think a certain player wants, right? So a perfect example is us talking about CJ Uzama a couple years ago, right? He's going to stay. He loves it here. He's a fan favorite. He loves the fans. He loves the community. He loves what Joe Burrow makes him look like the friggin' best tight end in the league. There's no way he's leaving. Gone. Right? And he went into like oblivion. Like he's unheard of. Is he even playing? I don't even know. Did he sign something?
He got cut. He got cut.
I know he got cut.
He didn't even make it to the last cut until
he's unsigned right now.
So it's like you wonder about guys like that if there's, he got his money, but now you're outside of the league looking in, and it just makes you wonder like what the grass is greener and they kick yourselves down the road. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't have $80 million in the bank account. I can't tell you how I'd feel. Something tells me I probably wouldn't care too much if every time I went to the bank machine, it showed a whole bunch of zeros across my name. I just buy a Super Bowl ring, maybe buy someone else's.
Yeah, but, it wouldn't feel as good though.
You want the guys to be, you want them all to be bought into winning. And I think Tony and Tom, you both said it in different ways. There's players that want both. Right. Some just want the money more than the team buy-in. And it doesn't really matter where they're playing. It's the best deal to set them up for life. And then other guys, like the Hubbards and those guys, hometown guys, you think they might lean more towards wanting to stay here and play for their childhood team. It's the same in hockey. There's a bunch of guys in hockey, hockey's big up here in Canada. There's a bunch of guys that, I'm not a Leaf fan by any stretch, but they'll take a discount to play for the Leafs. They'll take a discount to play for the Canadians, the original 6 teams, the Bruins, the Rangers, like those mythical teams that have been around since the beginning of hockey. There's something about playing for those franchises that guys will take less money to do, but not everybody. Some guys will go and play in Anaheim because, well, it's sunny, but because the money's good. They know they're never going to win a damn thing in Anaheim because they're 10 years away from doing anything. And they got 4 years left in their career. So,
well,
I don't know.
Before Joe comes on,
yep.
Tony, can you give us a
sort
of recap and update?
Sorry, Tony.
Oh, no, you're good. This is good stuff. From a charity perspective, wow. Our first week, we had a company and a couple companies reach out and wanted to do some matches with us. So our goal was to get $5,000 for Pro Kids, who was our charity that we were having there at the tailgate. And again, Who Dey Nation did an amazing job. We earned over $4,000 just at the tailgate alone, and with the matches from the company, it was 14,300 and some change that we were able to raise for Pro Kids. So it's just freaking amazing. If you
do I have a graphic, Tony? Do I have a graphic this week?
No.
Okay.
Since Jimmy's out of town, he actually just got all the numbers finalized with the company.
He's on suspension.
Yep, he's on suspension, but he's still on retainer, so he's doing some of that work for us still. But the other thing that's important to that is, with that $14,000, we are approaching $90,000 already for the year after week one. And that's just, I don't know, it's just amazing to me. I love the fact that we do this and use this platform and our tailgates to raise money for charities and organizations. And every year it just seems to get bigger and better. And it's just awesome. And then also, and just another note to that, we've been kind of tracking for the last 5 years about where we are as we approach a milestone, which our milestone this time is going to be, $500,000. So just imagine us earning and raising money for charities and organizations that's over $500,000. And we're only about $14,000 away from that milestone. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And I think we're going to do that, within the next few weeks of the season. So keep it up. And again, I can't thank Who Dey Nation and everyone who supports us in this. Talk a little bit about Kansas City. We did have a kind of a meet and greet up at the Voodoo Lounge at the Hara Casino Saturday night. And, we tag teamed it with the Chiefs, and we're going to do a rival type benefit for one cause there at the Voodoo Lounge. And we're basically going to put Mahomes Foundation against Joe Burrow's Foundation. So it should be interesting. It should be fun. We're bringing two rival teams together for one cause to earn money for their foundations. And, of course, we want to make sure we push the Joe Burrow Foundation. So make sure if you guys are attending the Kansas City game this weekend, make sure you make your donation. And your donation is your ticket to get in. So there's going to be live music. We're going to have a lot of good times and fun. And do what we always do there and celebrate the Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs in one mission to raise money. So looking forward to that as well. Also, next for Monday Night Football, just to give you kind of a heads up, Monday Night Football, with the Commanders, our charity of focus is going to be CMA, Cincinnati Music Accelerator. They're a big component of our tailgate. They do a lot of good work. So we want to make sure that we help them out in their charity adventures as well. So, again, it's awesome. Appreciate everyone. I can't talk more highly about what we do here and what you guys help us do from a fan base, and it's just amazing.
Good job, Tony. That's awesome. You guys do amazing. That number is crazy.
It is. It's absolutely nuts.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't. There's no words to explain what I feel in my heart for when we do this for organizations. It's amazing. So.
All right, Tom. Our special guest this week is in the waiting room. Do you want to do the intro?
Thank you. Yes, I will. For Bengal fans, so many of us know him, and if you don't, you've got to give him a follow on social media. And we'll also ask him about his not brand new but newer show that he's doing every week. But he's an essential follow. Good guy. He has Bengals on the brain. He can explain what went wrong in the losses as well as anybody, and he can celebrate and explain what went into a win. better than anybody. He's been a tremendous friend of the show, and we welcome back Joe Goodberry.
There we go. What's going on, Joe?
Here he is.
What's up, boys? Good to see you again.
What's up, Joe? Who dat?
Good to see you.
So, Joe, let's just get into it. I'll get started. I've been thinking all day what question to ask you first.
Okay.
So I think this one's probably what a lot of people are thinking. What the hell?
I think that's what we're all still reeling with and dealing with a little bit here. A few days after, I wonder if they're feeling the same way, or you don't have time to think about it when you have the Chiefs the very next week, right? I think that's the worst part about this whole thing is it was supposed to be a layup type of game, and no game is in the NFL, and it's you have all off season to prepare. So the other team was probably more excited to play the Bengals than the Bengals probably were to play the Patriots, but at the same time, dropping that one and turning around and saying, "Oh yeah, that's right, we've got the Chiefs in KC week 2." Man, that stings a little bit more.
No doubt. I haven't seen your break. Apparently, you got a film already reviewing the breakdown of the game. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, so when I log off tonight, I'll go check that out. What's your initial thoughts on this? Like, what did the Bengals do good? What did the Bengals not do bad?
So a couple of things that I think are positive for the outlook of the season is. In the trenches, we always have concerns with the offensive line. When is it going to get fixed? How is it going to get fixed? What is it going to look like? And I think overall they looked good. In pass protection, the only one that really gave you consistent issues was Trent Brown. But to me, he's a guy that will probably work into shape. And we have Amarius Mims if things get too crazy there. So you feel good about the offensive line where it's at. I'm kind of looking at Alex Kappa, gave up a few pressures, and I was like, all right, let's see how he's doing and how he progresses throughout this year. But a big positive might be that Orlando Brown Jr. looked the way he did previous years. Last year, I know a few people were down on the way he played last year, but I thought he bounced back really well week 1. And then Cordell Volson, is he taking another step? And it's been a development each year, and we're getting there to the point now. It's like, hey, maybe he's a quality starter at left guard. If that is the case, huge boost to this offense. I thought the O-line played well. And I thought the defensive line, for all the concerns I had in terms of run defense, especially at defensive tackle, the D-line actually did their job in run defense. It wasn't them that gave up all those yards. It was the missed tackles on the boundary. It was the missed tackles by everyone. 3 by Geno Stone. Von Bell had 1. Each linebacker had 1. They all took a turn missing a tackle. Dax Hill with another 2 or 3, depending on how many you want to count. But as run defenders, they did their job. I think if we're going to look for improvement on the defensive line, they need to get more of a pass rush from somebody other than Trey Hendrickson. But at least 2 positives are they kept Burrow clean most of the time, and I think the defensive line held up against the run.
Tony?
So one thing that I've heard consistently, the last few days since the game is, now we're 1-5 on our opener. And, everyone talks about the preseason, why don't we play our guys more? And I'm starting to kind of trend that way myself. So what's your opinion on, is that the fix, is to let the guys play a little bit longer in preseason and work out the kinks so we're ready to go week 1?
The hard part about doing that is you have to find the balance of let's not get anybody hurt right in preseason. Like right now we're down a couple rookies because they got hurt in preseason, right? You don't want that to happen, but you can't really avoid injuries. It's football. That stuff happens no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's preseason, regular season, playoffs. We've gone into the playoffs limping in with no starters on the offensive line, basically. So we've been on both sides of it. But I think there's maybe some truth that they're taking it a little bit easier in the summer, and in an effort to make sure everyone's healthy for week 1, and an effort to make sure everyone's healthy when you enter the playoffs in January. And if you want to argue against that, they have had success in the playoffs. So it's like, all right, maybe Marvin Lewis tore those guys up too often in the summer so they limped into the playoffs. Remember, we had Rex Burkhead as wide receiver 1 in one game. We don't want to end up like that. Remember, they dropped 3 straight, 06 at the end there when they were 8-5 at one point, ending up 8-8. You don't want to have the team limping at the end of the season. So what's the balance? We want to start fast, but end the season healthy. They're still searching for that. And it's not just week 1. It's the first 2 weeks. I went back and looked at Joe Burrow's stats for the first 2 weeks, since he's been a starter in 2020. It's not good. We know Burrow is the most accurate quarterback of all time. And instead of completing 69.8% of his passes normally, he is at 63.2, I believe it is. in the first 2 weeks. He's just not at the same level of confidence, consistency, accuracy. He doesn't look as comfortable in the pocket. I'm sure one of the questions are going to be about Joe Burrow here, but I'm diving into it already. He's not as good early in the year. Maybe he needs the reps. He's been the guy that always said, hey, I need the reps. Sounds like he's pushing to play more in preseason. Now they want to keep him healthy. The other half of it is he's always dealing with an injury come summertime, and this is the first time he really wasn't, but at the same time, they did have to protect him a little bit because of the risk still being a recovery issue. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I bet they're still searching for it.
And on that note that you talked about, this is the first time Joe Burrow has actually finished a whole training camp. So I think a lot of expectations were really high to see him come out balling, and we just didn't see that. So to your point, I think he just starts slow.
Well, you always blame the injury, right? I did. We always said, hey, it's a COVID year or the knee or the appendectomy or the calf. And maybe it wasn't just that. I mean, those were factors, of course. But maybe he needs to get hit. Maybe he needs to have tape on the other team, right? He's a guy he's not winning because he's the most athletic, because he's jumping over linebackers, or because he has a cannon and can throw that Anthony Richardson 66-yarder off a back foot fading away. He needs to be perfect in his fundamentals, in his mentals, in his timing, in his accuracy. That stuff does take time.
So before you came on, we were just talking a little bit about the game. And one of our viewers asked us our opinion on the punt with 2:13 or 2:16 left. Down 6, 3 timeouts, 2-minute warning coming up. Do you kick there?
I normally never punt ever unless it's completely obvious that you have to punt, which means you're at your own 30 or 25 and it's a 4th and 12, right? But at the time, I didn't have an issue because the offense didn't look like they could complete a pass more than 5 yards, 6 yards, and that last one was just a check down. They tried to check down to Zach Moss. And film review, spoiler, if you do go watch it, on first down, you have Jamar Chase open on an out route, and it should go to him pretty easily. For whatever reason, Burrow gets spooked by the game on the front line of the defensive line, and he goes to check it down off platform. And Moss has to kind of like dive to the side for it, and he drops it. And then on third down, they've got on the outside 2 out and up routes versus a single high safety. You've got 1-on-1 with Yoshi and 1-on-1 with Jamar Chase on either side. And this is a play that Zach Taylor said, and we've all been critical of Taylor's play calling at times, and people love to scream that during the game and after the games. When I watch the film, I go, oh, Taylor said, here's your shot play. You guys want to score from 90 yards out? Here's your chance on 3rd and 10. They'll never see it coming. And he was right. The Pats didn't go into a too high shell. They stayed out there with a single high safety, and Burrow didn't throw it. The protection was there. And for some reason, he's just slid to the right towards Trent Brown and threw off his back foot to Zach Moss on that 3rd down. I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Taylor saw that and said, punt it. Like, we're just not there today. The passing offense isn't there. The shot play was there. Jamar Chase gets a penalty because he just walks off the field with his head down very slowly. They punt it. He's still on the field. They get a 5-yard penalty, illegal substitution number 1. If you heard that,
right?
Thought, why was he out there? Because he was running down the field 1-on-1. The corner's falling, and he's like, "Why are you not throwing this ball?" So at that moment, I thought, you know what, punt it. Maybe the defense can make a play here, and maybe you can get it back. And then, of course, we get missed tackles galore, and that's the end of the game.
So speaking of Jamar Chase, another thing we talked about before you came on, how much of an impact do you, and we've talked about this to death, so I don't want to spend a half hour talking about Jamar Chase, but how much of an impact does this contract negotiation have on the team, do you think?
I think it has an impact. I think it does when you lose guys like Jesse Bates. I think it does when you can't get a deal done with T. Higgins. I think it does when you trade away Joe Mixon, right? Or when Joe Mixon takes a pay cut and then you don't spend that money on getting an extra guard or defensive tackle or whatever it is. I think all of these financial decisions have an impact on the team and the players because they see that stuff. They view themselves as next in line. They want those big guarantees. They want the deal to be seamless, but you hear the rumors that agents struggle to deal with the Bengals for a lot of different reasons. And I think when Jamar Chase sees it for the first time personally, it probably takes some shine away of like, man, this is a business, isn't it? Like sometimes you get reminded in life, even at your own job, You're having a good time. You're having a pizza party. Everything's good. And then it's like, all right, back to work, boys. And it's like, you know what? This is a business, isn't it? And I think we get slapped with that every once in a while, and it makes it hard. Or you band together and you do it in the locker room or as a team and you figure it out. And that could be the positive end of it. It's like, you know what? Let's show them what you're worth. We're going to feed you 12 targets next game. We're going to throw you a deep ball on 3rd and 10 to win it from 90 yards out at the end of the game. You need the quarterback to throw it, but we're going to call these for you, Jamar, to go show this team what you're worth. And I think everyone in that room knows what he's worth. That's why we're talking about making him the highest paid receiver in the league. It just got to get it done eventually. And it looks like it's going to be next offseason now.
Joe, you mentioned questions about Joe Burrow. I've got one. Normally we always hear, man, Joe's trying to make a play happen. Joe holds on to the ball too long. That's why Joe gets sacked. This game, it seemed like 3-step, 5-step, boom. 3-step, 5-step, check, go underneath, boom, boom, boom. Was there a problem with the receivers getting separation downfield or separation period?
I wouldn't say there was a problem. There was a lot of generic routes, and I would say half of the time, because I go into look in the film and I say, okay, what did the plays look like? What was the game plan? You try and figure that out as you're watching the first few drives. What were the scripted drives? What did they look like? And it looked like the Bengals expected the Patriots to do something other than what they ended up doing. So you can play cover 2 and put everyone back and say, we're not getting beat deep by Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And of course, T. Higgins didn't play, but the Patriots, they played like, we're not letting these guys beat us deep. And I think the Bengals went to the first drive like, okay, well, why are they hanging back? Why are you? It's basically rock, paper, scissors. You try to predict what the other guy's going to do. He throws rock and you threw scissors. You're like, he got me. Okay, next play. He's not going to throw rock again. We don't have Higgins out there. Scissors, rock again. Okay, shit. All right, so then you go 3rd down. And you're like, they're not going to do it this time. Rock again. What is going on? All right, punt. So then they come back. Patriots are still playing back. They go run. And then he gets sacked on 3rd down. That was a short one because Gesicki, I think, was the first drive, and then the 3rd down on the second drive, he gets sacked. And to me, I'm like, all right, they're not getting a chance to get in rhythm here. I think Zach Taylor talked about that. They didn't get a chance to get into rhythm early because I think they thought the Patriots would do something else, and then the Patriots just never came out of it. So the Bengals had like 5 or 6 shot plays called where they're like, all right, maybe we can get a play action here. Maybe we can chuck it downfield. And I think only one of them got off, and that was the getting Chase in the slot versus split safeties, and he runs down the middle, and that was their biggest pass play of the day. And they just never called paper when the Patriots called rock, and it just did not hit for them. They were not number one, not in sync. Number 2, they just weren't predicting what the Patriots were going to do, and the Patriots didn't do anything special. They're going to get the whole kitchen sink sent at them from the Chiefs this week because that's what the Chiefs do. But Patriots didn't. And I think the Bengals just kept waiting for them to do something different and give them something, and they never did.
Switching to the defense, you brought up seems to be a bugaboo every year, and that is consistent pass rush along the entire defensive line. Didn't look like maybe Sam Hubbard had his best game in any way. I didn't hear Sheldon Rankin's voice called over the PA. There were some guys we're counting on this year, and guys we can know still do the job who just simply didn't do the job Sunday for whatever the reason. But getting back to the missed tackles that you mentioned, Stevenson, I heard this statistic, and I don't know if you've looked at the tape to back this up. He had 120 yards rushing. Good for him. Great day. Running behind Bengal legend Michael Jordan and also a 7th-round draft pick.
He's a good player. He's a good player.
118 of his 120 yards came after contact. That's almost mathematically impossible. It should be athletically and football-wise impossible, but he did it. Is that from not hitting enough, in August? Is that, because we had this problem last year and even the year before, right after the Super Bowl, there was a tackling issue till about week 3. Do you see that going to get remedied from this group? Do you think a little more fluid this week? I told the guys before you came on, they could play their best game Sunday. They could play damn good and make us feel good and still lose and still come home 0-2. Do you see that coming, or do you think we're going to uncover more problems?
So I do think the lack of being able to tackle stems from how you do practice, camp, and preseason. I don't see too often, you don't read too often, or the clips we get if you're not at camp of them practicing tackling and hitting each other. They try to really preserve themselves for week one. And as I spoke to, there's value in that, of course. But at the same time, teams like the Steelers will practice every single day tackling because they know that's their edge, right? They know that they're going to come in and be physical and try and beat you with that in week one because they don't have the talent the Bengals do. So, I mean, if you were that type of team, I would suggest tackling as well. But the good part about this is that they can be fixed. How quickly can it be fixed? Well, hopefully ASAP in week two. If not, it could take a few weeks, but it wasn't for a lack of effort, I don't think, on defense. It was just, one guy here misses, then the next guy is not really sure what you're doing, so he jumped in his gap, had to jump back out and reach with one arm and miss. One guy thought you were going to spill it to him, so he's waiting for it, and he's flat-footed, and then and you don't spill it to him. Now he's got to dive and make a play. It was just bad communication and a little bit of hesitancy, I would say, to accurately understand what was happening in front of him. Even Jermaine Pratt, who's normally processes the run extremely quickly, there were times he got into the gap and had to look for the ball, and the running back hit him in the chest, basically. It's like, yeah, he was right in front of you, dude. You're right, you filled, but you didn't actually know where the ball was. So they just weren't in sync and weren't in time, and you can't have that because they don't have a star on defense other than Trey Hendrickson, right? And even him, he gets overlooked at times nationally. When you don't have that high-end talent on the defensive side, your communication better be great, your tackling better be great, and you better be playing sound defense. And they weren't there.
So we talked about offense, we talked about defense and special teams. Ryan, I mean, he killed the ball. He broke a record, and he had I think he broke two records, if I remember right. The long 80-yard punt that he had that beat the 75 yards from, 20 years ago. And then also just his average of almost 65 yards a punt. So what do you see that as being? I mean, that's a positive in my eyes, but what kind of comments do you have about that?
That was about 6 inches away from being the greatest punt I've ever seen in my life.
Right?
That was, I'm watching it. I stood up watching it like, whoa, is this going to stay in? Oh, my God.
Can you imagine if that stayed in? That would have been, like you said, the greatest punt of all time.
Yeah, that would have been on highlight shows. It was that good.
Yeah.
He always had a cannon for a leg, so that's a good thing. And we didn't get to see it in preseason. I'm like, he's a little inconsistent. He's hitting some line drivers. I guess the punting competition continues, right? And then week one, right away, it's like, oh, there's Ryan Rico. That's what it looks like. That's what the people were, maybe Darren Simmons is straightened about. Maybe he's getting more consistent punts out of him. That would be a huge weapon. That would be nice to have. I'm team never punt, but if your punter can do that, maybe I'd like to punt a little bit more and just watch that.
We have a few viewer questions. Before we get into that, though, I want to ask you, how many of your football friends, non-Bengal fan football friends, gave you shit because they lost their survivor pool?
Oh, actually none for the survivor pool. They gave me, because I live up in Western New York, so they gave me shit because they're like, you let the Patriots beat you guys? Like, what? I'm like, yeah, what happened to the Bengals? What happened to Burrow? And I'm just like, all right, I'm done talking about it at this point. But, not with us, but with people that can't understand how the Bengals lost to the Patriots. I'm like, it just happens.
So I'm obviously a huge Bengals fan. I picked the Saints in my survivor pool. I'm not picking the Bengals week one. I'm picking anyone who plays the Panthers. That is your path to winning your survivor pool this year.
The Saints, though, look crazy. I don't know if you caught any of that. That was absolutely nuts.
They look great. Yeah, I'm curious to see how they play next week.
Yeah.
Matt's asking probably a question a lot of Bengals fans are thinking about, especially, I don't know if you're at the game on Sunday or you watched from home like I did. They showed the wrist a lot on the sidelines, him doing this and people looking at it. Are you worried about Joe's wrist?
Yes. I mean, I think we should be. And that doesn't mean I think it's injured or re-injured or a problem. I just think, like, of course I'm worried because he's just coming off an injury. If it was his knee and you asked me week 1 of 2021, you worried about his knee? I'd say yes. If you asked me about his calf in week 6 last year, I'd have said yes, I'm worried because any injury takes time. Even when you're cleared and you're healthy and you feel good, you still have to relearn how to do things and how to trust it and how to feel as confident as you were before in that piece of your body functioning the way you expect it to function. And then they did show him, looked like on that fumble, maybe he took a punch there or the helmet hit there. I couldn't see, but it looked like there was a little bubble or swelling on the wrist, and he's putting the glove on and he's flexing and he's like, grabbing it like this. But he always did stuff like that with his hand. He's a guy. I'm with him. I got 9-inch hands. The grip's not great, so you got to make sure that it's moist and feels good, and your wrist feels good. And that's part of football, is feeling your body and making sure everything's right. But yeah, I'm concerned, but not to the point where I think it's, until we know it's a detriment. I'm not there yet.
Yep, that's fair. And obviously we're one game in. We see Joe Mixon gets a touchdown in Texas or Houston. And then, in the post-game interview, throws a little bit of shade at the Bengals, saying, like, they left me. I'm here now. I'm happy. Do we, again, we're one game in. We're going to see how this running back by committee thing works. Are we missing Joe Mixon's energy out there, do you think? Bill's asking.
I was ready to answer that question until you said the energy. They might miss his energy. Who right now would rally the team and get them back in order? Would it be Joe Mixon? Yeah, and DJ Reader? But there's no physical element to our game. We'll show you how physical we are. We've actually seen that word for word. Dan Orlovsky says that, they weren't physical. Well, I think DJ Reader would have something to say about that. So are they missing some of that? Sure. Are they missing Mixon on the ground? I'm not sure. He probably would have got 9 carries just like Zach Moss did, right? So Mixon, his longest run, getting 150 yards on the ground, his longest run was 13 yards. The reason they got rid of him is because they wanted the more explosive element to their game, the return, especially on the ground, and they got an explosive run out of Zach Moss. Now, hopefully we see more of it. Hopefully we see more Chase Brown, I think, and we'll know at the end of the year. But, the last time Mixon had 30-plus touches was in the 2022 opener versus the Steelers. He had 145 yards in that game as well. The Bengals lost that one. And so, the running game doesn't always lead to wins. It's how'd your passing game do and how many turnovers did you have? And in this case, passing game didn't do too well, and they had more turnovers than the Patriots did. So
something Joe Mixon may want to consider, had there been no off-the-field drama the past couple of seasons, I think he'd still be a Bengal.
Yeah.
I absolutely think he'd still be here if there had been no off-the-field concerns. And by the way, Joe is a fantastic member of the community, supported the community. You saw him all over. Nice guy, but there were a couple off-the-field incidents, and I think had those not occurred, he'd still be here.
Yeah, but also good for Joe Mixon, right? I mean, we don't – good. Rush for 1,600 yards. Yeah. And if it's not us and the Texans go and you get a ring like Corey Dillon did with the Patriots, we're not mad about it. Do your thing. Show everyone what we saw the last 8 years. Go do your thing, Joe.
100%. And further to Tom's point, there's been a culture change with this team over the last 10 years, and it's that we don't want those distractions. It seems like the team does not want the off-field distractions. Jamar Chase contract drama aside, obviously. What do you think about this week, the Chiefs? Does T. Higgins play, do you think?
I guess we won't know until practice comes around. I wouldn't be surprised if they took it easy. This is a guy that cannot risk severely injuring that hamstring. That's the part about only having a 1-year deal or not having long-term security, whether that's Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase, Jesse Bates in that final year. Remember, he was distracted by that as well. Yep. It's hard to put yourself on the line when you are playing for a big payday at the same time. Sure, you want to win, you want to play well and all that, but if you're ineffective or limited or at a risk for further injury, which we know hamstrings can be that, you've got to play it safe. So I understand it from his perspective, but watching the tape, and I think a lot of analysts had the same reaction after this game, is, maybe the Bengals do need 2 really good receivers. Maybe this offense really only works the way it does when you have 2 high-end weapons that the defense cannot afford to single up at any point in the game. And if that's the case, we need to get Higgins back as soon as possible.
Yeah. Joe, we love having you on this show. I'm going to throw it back to Tom to kind of start closing it out. Before we do that, though, can you let fans who are watching know more about you? Someone's seeing you for the first time. Where can they find you? What are you working on? What's some exciting stuff that you have going on to start this new Bengals season?
Yeah, so if you don't know, on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, that's the place to find me. Ask questions, talk, and have a good time during the game if you're not at the game, and want to go through the ups and downs and the roller coaster of the game on Sundays, but then review the film and the data for the rest of the week and get psyched back up and get geared back up for next Sunday. It's a good spot for that. And otherwise, if you want to watch Bengals on the Brain presented by First Star Logistics every Tuesday at 7:00, that just aired. I watched the film for over an hour of every passing play from the Bengals on Sunday and tried to dissect it and figure out what we could see and figure out causes and issues and what we can hang our hat on a little bit. And there's also post-game live shows on the First Star media page. After the game, I go on with Jake Lisco, who hosts Locked On Bengals. He and I have a good repertoire together, and the show is awesome. So tune into that after the game ends.
Do you clip all this yourself, or do you have access to film after the game?
Yeah, I have access to the film after the game, and I clip it up and dice it up.
Very cool. Very cool. Tom, I'll throw it back to you. Thanks again, Joe.
Joe, going off subject a little bit, a few years ago, you put together something that belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame itself, and that was a biography and presentation on why Willie Anderson belonged in Canton. He's still not there, but for those of us that follow it, we know he should be. We know it's overdue, but he's going in the right direction, albeit at unfortunately a glacier pace. But we're getting very close to being there, and we think very soon Willie's going to be in. The flip side of that is another guy by the name of Anderson who belongs there and should have been there long ago. You worked your magic with Willie. We know you have a ton of free time on your hands.
Yeah.
With the new rule changes in Canton, it's very critical, I think, that Ken go in this year. Is there any chance, as the process ramps up in October, you could crank out by then a presentation on why a guy who was league MVP, 4 NFL passing championships, developed a system that the whole league used and was the model quarterback? Can you put something together so we can all share it and get it to the voters? And I'm not going to get into the voters because Jamie knows I get a little wound up. We've talked to them. I've heard their reasoning about why he belongs and also why they just can't or haven't voted for him, even though a lot of them are coming around. Do you think by October, when it really gets cranked up for 2025, we can get something from you?
Yeah, maybe that's a good bye-week project then, right? Get that in there in that range. And is the bye week in October? No, it's in November, isn't
it?
It's
late November.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure on that. I did do a top 100 series, and Kenny Anderson came in at number 2, top 100 greatest Bengals of all time. And he's got like an 8-minute video there, but I can cut that up and make it a little more concise and get everything together. Because yes,
get it to the voters and everything else with, I mean, the 4. It was one voter. I swear we were talking to him. Jim and I were talking to him off the air, and I mentioned 4 passing championships, and Brownie said, "Ken Anderson didn't have 4 passing championships." I said, "You're a voter. You told me you did your research." No, Ken Anderson didn't. And he looked down at his phone, and we heard him clicking away, and he went, "Oh, I'll be darned. He has won 4 NFL passing championships." I said, "Yeah. Look at the guys below him that don't have that."
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
You know what, Joe? What these guys do, I'm not involved in this at all, so I won't take any credit. But what these guys do behind the scenes for these Bengals legends is absolutely insane. So anything, like if you have that clip that you can provide for us from the top 100 Bengals you did, any of that stuff helps. These guys make sure the people who are supposed to see it. All the the Jungle to the Hall, all the events we do to raise awareness for these Bengals legends who, if they're not getting in the Hall of Fame, at least they're getting the recognition from the team that the team's finally doing that. So all that goes a long way to help. And it's been cool to see some of these other guys reach out. The videos we've gotten from other players who lined up against these guys and analysts and it's been pretty cool to see. It's been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, they're all doing great work. I mean, we're going to get these guys in there and, take some satisfaction that you have a small part in that.
Very small, but still cool.
They did it. But yeah.
They did it. But sometimes,
again, that'd be great.
And that's what I think of sometimes when I do this stuff is I think of what? These guys are going to be known. This social media era doing what we do is going to help their name later, and hopefully they get recognized and they'll get lost in the shuffle and lost in the dustbin of the NFL Hall of Fame because the Bengals went through a tough stretch, or because they just didn't get the media attention at the time, whatever it may be. Hopefully what we're doing now will impact this generation in the future.
Yep.
Joe, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everybody, please check Joe out, and hopefully you'll come back on with us during the season.
I will. Thanks for having me, boys.
Awesome, Joe.
Thank you.
Man.
Take care.
Right. Who day?
All right, boys. We're already past James's deadline of the 9 o'clock shutdown, so I'm already getting texts saying.
You think we're going to get written up?
Hey, they leave us in charge. We can go longer, but we are up against the presidential debate. We're not going to talk politics in the comments, but we're going to see the drop off right here at 9 o'clock. So
I got a neighbor that's a Steelers fan. I'm going to walk my dog. We've got the dog trained to shit in his yard. So
I was going to say you're obviously out of bag, so it's all good. Tony, close us out. We'll go Tony, Tom, and then I'll finish off.
So rough start to the season. Let's concentrate on Kansas City. Win or lose, as long as we have a competitive game, that'll be good for me. And don't forget about our charity for Kansas City. Let's make sure Joe Burrow Foundation wins. So make your donation, and we'll see what happens. Today.
Keep the faith. We all had our frustrations. Joe's very good at, when things are good, he'll point out what's not so good, and for him to be optimistic and not as pessimistic on the problems. Like I said, they could very easily go to Kansas City this week, play their best game, and still come home with a loss. So let's come home healthy, but let's fix some things and know we're going to be dangerous the rest of the way. Jamie?
Week 2, beat the Chiefs, and I'm not a religious guy, but thank you, Lord, that our quarterback is not Daniel Tosh. Not Daniel Tosh. What am I saying? Who am I trying to say? No, well, okay, let's name them all off. Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young, who I'm trying to say, Giants.
Daniel Jones.
I said Daniel Tosh.
Okay.
We love comedian. But thankful that we do not have Daniel Jones as our quarterback. Let's just leave it on that note. How about that?
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Thank you, Jimmy, James, if you're watching, which you probably are because you can't get away. We hope you're having fun where you guys are. Jimmy, we hope to see you back here next week. I'm sure James back here next week.
When is his hearing?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to schedule it. I'll be back next week as well. The week after, I won't be here. I'll be in Cincinnati though on the 24th. But,
having dinner at Ruby's. Thanks.
I think so. We're doing a birthday dinner while I'm down there, so that's gonna be fun. But I'll see you guys next week. Tony, as always, amazing job with the charity.
Appreciate it.
Tom, thanks for letting me hold this down with you, buddy. All right,
you did
guys.
a great job.
We'll get the report back from the boss later.
Thanks, everybody. Who day?
Beat the Chiefs.